Hello, in this presentation I would like to tell you how I would test the Genie lamp. So why should we test a Genie lamp? The first reason is it is fun. It is something like testing a pencil or testing an ATM, which is a typical exercise for novice testers. You don't need any technical expertise, you don't need to know any specific software or apps, but you do need to know the types of tests and maybe some testing methods. Also, rules are relatively simple, at least that I thought initially, and it turns out it's not exactly the case. I will get into this later. Many people are familiar with the story through watching movies, cartoons, maybe the fairy tale itself, and it is also a great exercise in analytical thinking. So what description and requirements do we have? As it turns out, there are many of them, and they differ in different versions of a fairy tale, so in the movies and in the cartoon. So I settled down on the following set of rules. A Genie lamp looks like an oil lamp but has a genie in it. When someone rubs the lamp, the genie appears, and I will call this person the user. The genie can grant a user 3 wishes, and there are certain restrictions on wishes, such as no killing, no making someone fall in love, no resurrection, no wishing for more wishes. A user can set the genie free by using one of his or her wishes for that. After 3 wishes are granted, the genie goes back into the lamp unless set free, and any number of people can become users after that. So as we see, there are a lot of uncertainties here, and I'll just name a few. Is the Genie lamp supposed to function as a regular oil lamp? It's something like this. Are we supposed to be able to pour oil into it and light it up? Another question is, if killing people is not allowed, are some injuries allowed? And if they are, where is the borderline? I will get into this question later. How do we test that someone falls in love or that they don't? Another question about the lamp restriction. Let's define the scope of testing. We will test the description of the product, so the lamp and its functions, the outside appearance of the lamp, and how the product interacts with the user. We will not test the details of possible interpretation or misinterpretation of the wishes by the genie, because genie is a living creature and it will be just too difficult to do. Also, we will not test the inner architecture of the lamp. In one of the versions of the story, if I remember correctly, it says that inside the lamp there is like a chamber where a genie can rest between granting wishes, but we don't have any clear description of that, and it's not clear how we can see that, so we will not be testing the inner architecture. Now, definitions. As it turns out, we can use some traditional software development terminology to the lamp testing. For example, the product is the Genie lamp in its current version, which includes the lamp itself and a genie in it. A user is an individual who rubs the lamp and summons the genie at least once. We'll also define activation. Admin account is a user account with full privileges that we may need for some specific testing, and I will get into this later. User interface is the outside appearance of the lamp. Activation is the act of summoning the genie by rubbing the lamp. And finally, product documentation is the description of the product and its functions, which we defined in slide 1. Now let's talk about testing conditions and environment. The first of is climate. I'm assuming that the lamp will be used in the countries on the Arabian Peninsula. I'm not quite sure. I will clarify this with the client, but for now let's just assume that. That means that it will be subject to semi-arid to arid climate, with high annual temperatures, low precipitation, and possibly sandstorms. And we will need to test our lamp in these exact conditions. Since a user can only have 3 wishes, we won't be able to do a lot of testing with just one lamp. So some solutions for that are: use a lot of testers, use a lot of single-use Genie lamps, but we don't know if that is available, use an admin account with full privileges, or a combination of the above. So what is the admin account exactly? This is a concept I came up with, which I thought will be useful for our testing. It should involve some login process and some clear indicator of using the admin account. So the Genie should always know whether a tester is using the admin account. As an admin, the tester can summon the Genie as many times and as often as they need, which is not clear if a regular user can do that, so we just enunciate it here. Admin has unlimited number of test case wishes, which I will explain in a second. And after logging out, an admin can still be a regular user, meaning that if I logged in as an admin, do my testing, logged out, and then use a regular user account, I should be able to still have my 3 wishes. Now, a test case wish. It is another concept that I created. Basically, it is a mock wish that allows us to do some negative testing. A test case wish should be recognized by the Genie as a test case wish and not a regular wish. It should not come true, but there should be some clear indicator whether such a wish would have been granted in a real-life scenario. And for that indicator, I suggest for the Genie to turn green if it would have been granted and red if it would have not been granted, just like a street light. So an example of that will be me wishing for killing my enemy, thus testing the no killing restriction. So we are not risking to kill anyone actually with a test case wish, but we can still test that because the Genie will tell me whether this wish would have been granted. Smoke testing. So let's do some simple tests before the actual full testing. The first test case I suggest is that the user can summon the Genie from the lamp. Then the Genie can grant the user who is using a regular account 1 wish. And after the wish is granted, the Genie goes back into the lamp. Simple. Functional testing. So the first is the basic lamp functionality. As I mentioned earlier, we are still not sure whether the lamp should be able to function as a regular oil lamp while before or after being activated. This we'll need to clarify. And if the answer is yes, then the lamp functionality should also be tested. Now, the interesting part, the Genie Lamp functionality. And I'll give you just a few examples of the test cases. The Genie can grant the user 3 wishes provided that they are not among the restricted wishes. After 3 wishes are granted, the Genie does not grant any more wishes to that user. The user can free the Genie with his/her 3rd wish. After 3 wishes are granted to one user, a different user can summon the Genie. And after 3 wishes are granted to one user, the Genie can grant a different user 1 wish. You can check out the full list on my GitHub. Here's the link. Usability testing. My suggested test cases for that are: the user can rub the lamp without any discomfort and summon the Genie. The Genie stays in the lamp when the user opens the lid without any rubbing. And also, when the user opens the lid and puts the lamp upside down, the Genie does not fall out of the lamp. That will be kind of embarrassing. The Genie can recite the lamp rules to the user. The Genie answers the user's questions about the rules or the lamp and such. And the lamp does not run hot at any time when in use. But we also have some questions regarding the usability testing. So, what is the size, color, or materials of the lamp? And what is its reasonable weight? Because all of these are important for usability. What part of the lamp should be rubbed? For example, can I summon the genie by rubbing the handle or the lid? And is it for right-handed users only, or does it also support left-handed users? That is actually an interesting question, because as far as I know, in Arabic culture, using your left hand is kind of discouraged, so I'm interested about left-handed users here. Is it only for Arabic speakers, or does it support users who speak other languages? And what if the user does not speak Arabic? What happens in this case? Also, since we are dealing with granting wishes with potential consequences, what is the minimum age of the user, how to verify the age, and what if the user is younger than the minimum age. Stress testing. Here I had to do some assumptions about what is reasonable in using the lamp. So I suggest the following test cases. The lamp and the genie should function normally, and the lamp shouldn't run hot after summoning the genie 100 times consecutively within 10 days. So 10 times a day on average. And I also would suggest to possibly automate this test case. Second one is that the user can summon the genie at any time during the day, and that should be tested each hour. So 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and so on. Again, if possible, we should automate this. And the last one is that the user can summon the genie at least 5 times within 5 minutes, and the lamp should function normally and should not run hot. Security misuse testing. Well, I've done some research, and it turns out there are a lot of ways that people may try to violate the lamp restrictions. Let's talk about them. No killing people. So the possible way to violate this is killing indirectly. For example, I do not wish for my enemy to be killed, but instead I wish for them to get into a car crash. Also, some questions. The one that I mentioned earlier. If killing someone is restricted, we cannot do this. What about an injury, or an injury that may lead to death? So if an injury is possible, where is the borderline between an injury and killing? Or if both killing and injury is impossible, is some light harm still possible? For example, can I wish for my enemy to be humiliated and sleep on a banana peel or something like this? Because if yes, it will definitely lead to some light harm, such as bruises or something. And if it's possible, then we need to define the borderline between, say, light injuries and other injuries that are prohibited. No falling in love. Well, that is also tricky. So the possible violations of this are either altering the nature of reality or creating a new reality where person X is in love with a person Y. Or a user may ask a genie to create an identical person, such as a twin or a clone, who falls in love with another person. And the question still remains, how do we test whether someone falls in love or that they do not? Moving on, we have no resurrection. The possible ways to violate this are an attempt to change the past, such as rewriting the past or time traveling, reincarnation, which is technically not a resurrection, or creating an identical person, such as a twin or a clone. Should any of these things be allowed by the lamp restriction? No wishing for more wishes. Well, that is the wish that, from my research, the users will try to violate the most often. And some possible ways to violate this are wishing for extra wishes, lamps, or genies, or even turning themselves into a genie. They may also present multiple wishes as one. For example, such as a list of wishes, or ask the genie to always obey their commands, and so on. They may try to erase the genie's memory so that the genie does not remember that he or she has granted this user a wish or wishes already. They may wish for an ability to change the lamp rules, or again, altering reality or creating a new reality where some of these things is possible. Or they may wish for omnipotence, or being served by even a higher power than the genie himself or herself. And some more questions regarding security misuse testing. Should a genie be able to undo a wish or change the order of wishes? What about wishes that are physically impossible, such as creating an eternal engine? What about contradictory wishes, such as, I don't know, hot ice or something like that, and altering things in the past or the future? Compatibility testing. We talked briefly about the climate, so my suggestion is that the lamp should function normally in the temperature range from 0 to 55 Celsius and from 30 to 60% humidity. And yes, in some countries in the Arabian Peninsula, the temperature rises higher than 50 Celsius, so we should definitely test that. Also, the lamp should function normally after being buried in the sand for 1 week and being dug out. Ideally, we should do a 50 years test, but I'm not quite sure how to carry that out. And we should also test our lamp in a wind tunnel with simulated sandstorm conditions. I did a bit of research and I found out that the simulated sandstorm conditions I used in wind tunnels for testing some civil engineering objects, so that is definitely an option and it should be for us. Some thoughts on testing with the regular user account. First off, we should definitely do some tests with the regular user account to get enough coverage. We cannot only use the admin account, but with the regular user account, we should be very careful because the genie can misinterpret our wishes and we're not testing that. So my solution for that is that those wishes should be agreed upon beforehand in writing, including the exact wording to be used, and such writing should have legal power. This will help us avoid any abuse of power, possible misinterpretation, and other negative consequences. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation so far, and here are my conclusions. First off, that the project turns out to be more complicated than I thought. The rules turned out to be not that simple, and I did a lot of research. I also was able to find some good analogies from software development, such as activation in admin account. An interesting thing is that I was able to apply some popular testing types, such as smoke testing or functional testing or UI testing, but not other, such as regression testing. The part I enjoyed the most was security and misuse testing. That was definitely a lot of fun. And overall, I would say it was a good mental exercise and helped me understand different testing types better. So thanks for listening to my presentation, and I have a question for you. What magic object would you like to test?